I waited for him for 7,305 days. I counted every single one of them in the silence of my heart. I finally found my son, but he didn't recognize me. He said, "It's nice to meet you," as if I were just a stranger. I realized I had been loving a ghost for 20 years. But love never dies. My name is Eleanor, and I am 62 years old. I am just an ordinary mother, but I carry the weight of 20 years of longing in my heart. Today, I am going to tell you the true story of a woman, my own story, who found her child after many long years, only to feel like a complete stranger in his eyes. They say a mother never forgets the face of her child, no matter how many years turn to dust. I have spent exactly 7,305 days waiting for this moment. I counted every single one of them in the silence of my heart. I sat in the corner of the cafe, my tea long forgotten and cold. Every time the bell above the door rang, my breath caught in my throat. Then the door opened one last time, and my world stood still. A young man walked in. He was tall now, but I would have known him anywhere. He had the same deep, searching eyes as his father. As he walked toward me, I saw the tiny, faint scar on his chin, the one he got at 4 years old when he fell off his blue tricycle. My soul wanted to scream his name. I wanted to throw my arms around him and tell him that the hole in my heart was finally filled. But as he reached my table, the warmth drained from the room. He didn't run to me. He didn't cry. He looked at me with the polite, hollow gaze of a person meeting a stranger for a business deal. He pulled out a chair, sat down, and offered a small, formal smile. "Hello," he said. "Are you the lady who called me? I'm David. It's nice to meet you." It's nice to meet you. Those 5 words felt like a knife. After 20 years of longing, I wasn't his mother. I was just a stranger at a table. The boy I had carried in my heart for 2 decades was gone, and the man in front of me didn't even know my name. David was born on a Tuesday, and from that second, my world was transformed. It was just the 2 of us, a tiny team against the world. To keep our small life together, I worked myself to the bone. During the day, I was at the laundry, my hands submerged in hot, soapy water until they were red and raw. At night, when the rest of the town slept, I cleaned dark, empty offices, scrubbing floors until my knees bruised. I was always tired, a deep exhaustion that lived in my bones, but it all disappeared the second I walked through our door. One look at his smile was the only rest I ever needed. David was a child who lived among the stars. He didn't care that our clothes were secondhand or that our meals were simple. He was too busy planning our future. He'd sit on the floor, moving his toy rocket through the air, his eyes wide with wonder. "Mommy," he would whisper, "did you know the moon is made of silver? When I'm a big boy, I'm going to fly there and bring a piece back just for you. Then you can stop cleaning and we can just play all day." In those moments, held together by his imagination and my love, we were invincible. But the winter of 20 years ago was a thief. I got sick, a deep, heavy pneumonia that stole my breath. I remember falling to the kitchen floor, unable to reach for him as he cried. While I fought for my life in a hospital bed, the system moved in. They didn't see the years of sacrifice or the silver moon promises. They only saw a woman with no money and no relatives to help. When I finally regained consciousness, the world was empty. They told me David had been placed in a stable home through a closed adoption. "If you truly love him, you will let him be happy," the social worker told me. I returned to our apartment, but it wasn't a home anymore. His wooden blocks were still on the rug, and his little blue jacket hung on the door, waiting for a boy who wasn't coming back. My moon was gone, and the stars had all gone dark. But it sounded like he was shouting from the bottom of a deep well. The kitchen floor was freezing, and then darkness, voices, Sirens. Red and blue lights pulsing against my closed eyelids. "Stay with us, Eleanor," someone yelled. Doors slamming. The hiss of oxygen. It was a whirlwind of gray ghosts and sharp needles. When I finally opened my eyes, the world was silent and white. The air smelled of bleach. My first word was his name, but the nurse only adjusted my IV and looked away. I spent weeks trapped in that bed, and more weeks trapped in gray offices. It was a blur of paperwork I couldn't understand, and people who spoke about my life as if I weren't in the room. I was fighting a mountain with my bare hands. They called me unfit and unstable, words they use for mothers who are poor and alone. Then came the final blow in a cold, quiet office. The social worker didn't look at me. She looked at a folder. She told me David was gone. He had been adopted. The door was closed forever. I started to beg, my voice cracking, but she stopped me with a look of pity that felt like ice. "Eleanor," she said softly, "he has a bedroom now. He has a future. If you truly love him, you'll let him go." That sentence broke what was left of me, as if my love, the only thing I had left, was a cage. I went back to our empty apartment. His little blue jacket was still draped over the chair, holding the shape of a boy who was already being taught to forget me. 20 years is not just a number. It is 7,000 mornings of waking up to an empty house. It is 20 winters of looking at a blue jacket that grew smaller in my mind, while the boy inside it grew into a man I didn't know. I didn't let the world make me forget. Every year on his birthday, I performed my secret ritual. I would make a tiny lemon cake, his favorite. I would light one single candle and sit in the kitchen as the sun went down. "Happy birthday, my moon," I would whisper into the shadows. I'd blow out the flame and make the same wish I had made 1,000 times. Please let him be happy. Please let him remember the light. When I wasn't praying, I was writing. I couldn't send him gifts, so I gave him my words. I wrote about the way the trees looked in autumn and how I still saved the D wooden block from his old toy set. I filled one shoebox, then another, then a third. I tucked them under my bed, a library of a mother's love that had nowhere to go. The search was long and quiet. I spent years visiting the local library, my eyes growing tired as I stared at glowing computer screens. I searched through public records and social media, sorting through a sea of David Smiths like a woman looking for a specific star in the midnight sky. And then I found him. The search was long and quiet. I spent years visiting the local library, my eyes growing tired as I stared at glowing computer screens. I searched through public records and social media, sorting through a sea of David Smiths like a woman looking for a specific star in the midnight sky. And then I found him. He was an architect now. He lived only 3 towns away. I stared at his picture for hours, tracing the line of his jaw. He looked so much like his father, but he had my eyes. My hands shook so hard I had to sit on them to stay still. I didn't want to ruin his life, but the longing was a fire I couldn't put out. I wrote the email with tears blurring my vision. "Dear David," I typed, "I am Eleanor, your biological mother. I am not asking for anything. I just want to know if you are okay. If you are willing, I would love to meet you for a coffee. If not, I wish you a beautiful life." I closed my eyes, whispered a prayer, and clicked send. My heart felt like it left my body with that click. David sat across from me, but he might as well have been on another planet. "So," he began. His voice was deep, a man's voice, steady and professional. "You're Eleanor." "I'm your mother, David," I whispered. The word mother felt like a prayer I'd been holding under my tongue for 20 years. He didn't flinch, but he didn't lean in either. "I have a family, Eleanor. I had a good life, a good childhood. To be honest, I never felt like anything was missing." But the stories? I asked, leaning forward. The moon made of silver? The songs? You used to be my little knight, David. You'd carry a wooden sword and tell me you'd protect me forever. David looked at me then, and I saw it. The wall between us. It wasn't built of anger. It was built of indifference. I don't remember a little knight, he said firmly, but politely. My first memory is my father, my adoptive father, teaching me how to ride a bike. Everything before that is just a cold gray blur.
I look at you, and I see a kind woman with a sad story, but I don't see my mother. I pulled the wooden D-block from my bag and placed it on the table. It looked small and worn out against the polished wood of the cafe. I wrote you letters every week, I said. I never stopped being your mother, even when the world said I wasn't. David didn't touch the block. He stood up, smoothing his jacket. I'm sorry, Eleanor, but I'm David Miller now. I'm an architect. I'm a fiancé. I'm a son to the people who were there when I fell down. That boy you're looking for, he doesn't exist anymore. David, wait. Thank you for the coffee, he said, his voice final. I wish you peace, truly. He walked out, and the bell above the door chimed one last time. My little knight was gone, replaced by a stranger named David Miller who didn't need the moon anymore. I went home and cried until I was empty. I realized I had been loving a ghost, a 5-year-old boy who grew up and moved on while I stood still. I took my shoeboxes and placed them on the highest shelf in my closet. I didn't throw them away, but I stopped letting them be my prison. I started living for the woman I was today. I joined a painting class and met Martha, a kind widow. When I told her my story, she took my hand and said, Eleanor, you gave him life twice. Once when he was born, and once when you let him go so he could be happy. That is the greatest love there is. Peace came slowly, like a soft light. Then, one Saturday, my phone rang. Eleanor? It was David. He sounded nervous. I've been looking at that wooden block. My parents told me how much I cried for you when I was small. But I'm getting married, and I want you to be there. I went to that wedding. I sat in the second row and watched the man I lost become a husband. He introduced me as an old family friend. It wasn't the reunion I had dreamed of for 20 years, but it was a beginning. I realized then that my 20 years of love hadn't been wasted.
That love didn't disappear. It lived inside him, helping him become the good man he is today. Love is never lost. It just changes shape. Sometimes it looks like a mother's hug, and sometimes it looks like the strength to let go and watch from a distance. Time changes everything, even the people we hold closest. But true love never dies. It simply changes shape. Have you ever experienced something like this? Have you felt that your loved ones had changed after a long separation? Please, share your story in the comments below. If this video touched your heart, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. It means the world to us.